Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Eldridge and Company. The policy of no child left behind is still producing crowds of children going nowhere. Things learned only for tests are often gone an hour after the exam. But when you go under the age of testing and teach starting minds, everything changes and success walks into the classroom. Dr. Gloria Farber takes it even further. She directs the education of families, very young children, and their parents at Columbia University's Head Start program very successfully. So, hello, I'm glad you're here. Tell us about your program.
We are a program that's sponsored by the Mailman School of Public Health and the Department of Pediatrics of the College of Physicians and Surgeons at Columbia University.
That's in itself a very important thing.
That's very, very special.
It's very interesting that they're considering the education public health, but go on.
Absolutely, because Head Start is a comprehensive program for children and families that includes health and mental health, nutrition. So that's very important. And our program began in 1993. At that time, we were funded to serve 51 Head Start children, that's preschool age children, and their families. And at that time, we also didn't have a classroom. We thought we'd have space, but space is always a very major problem up at the university. And so our director, Dr. Carmen Rodriguez, was very creative, and we created what was called a home-based Head Start program. So we could do it in one room with home visitors visiting the home and children coming for socialization groups. Since then, we've grown. And we have our Head Start program now services 66 children and their families. And we, in 1995, Head Start in the federal government authorized a program called Early Head Start. That's very, very special, so that Head Start programs or agencies and communities could apply for a grant. And our program did.
Yeah.
So now we have 236 early Head Start families.
Ooh.
36 of them are pregnant women, and 30 are infants and toddlers. And we have two sites. One site is up in the medical campus at 173rd Street and Haven, and that's Washington Heights.
Right.
And the other site is the West Harlem area at Hamilton Heights on 142nd Street and Hamilton Street.
How do children get selected, or how do they apply to get in, how do they become Head Start
Well, they need to be low income.
Right.
They need to be low-income families. We get referrals from doctors, from pediatricians, community agencies. We now have quite a reputation in the community. So we get referrals from other families who say, go to this program, they're really going to help you.
And so do you get too many referrals? I mean, do you have more applicants than you're able to take?
For our early Head Start, there is a tremendous need. Our Head Start goals and objectives are really based on the community needs. And there is a tremendous need in our community and in the community, the West Harlem community, for services for low-income families with infants and toddlers, for pregnant women.
Now, Head Start is a whole family program, so parents participate in the care of the children.
Yes.
Or in the activities for the children.
In the activities.
Do they do that for are the children there for 3 hours or for a whole day?
Well, our model, we're called a combination model.
Yeah.
Our model is such where, I think is really wonderful, particularly for early Head Start. I mean, early Head Start programs, this is very much encouraged, that they are parent-child groups. So parents come and they stay with their children for 3.5-hour groups, and they also receive home visits.
So, but the children are just there for the 3.5 hours.
The children are there, but we also provide adult education classes.
Right, and
when
do those happen?
That can happen during the group. It can, for about an hour or an hour and a half of the group, parents can get nutrition classes. We have a wonderful parenting course for parents called Incredible Years, with play as a foundation and praise, and learning how to appropriate strategies to set limits with your children, very positive strategies. So we offer that to parents, and you mentioned parents, and parents, Head Start is a program that started in 1965 as part of President Johnson's war on poverty. And it started as a summer program. To think that 8 weeks is going to make a difference and help with the gap between the performance of low-income children and middle and high-income children.
The basic reason.
That's the basic reason. It was very important, and the idea of the people who developed the program was that parents are an integral and important part of the program.
And the child's education and
yes,
whole it was an age of social justice, and I think it was finally acknowledged that children who come from middle class and upper middle class families do have more advantages than children coming from low income families.
Absolutely.
Right? And this was the attempt to offer those same services. It never, I think, has gotten the proper funding so that every child could have it if they wanted. But we'll go into that in a little while. But let me just ask you, people will say, how can a working parent participate in the program? But the program that you're running, and because they must participate, you have to be a parent participating in the program to be in the program, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So your women are basically either working evening hours or weekends, non-traditional times, or are not working mothers. Did you run into trouble with the welfare to work program?
No, we did not. And what we had thought, though, we were concerned that it would affect our enrollment.
Right.
However, our parents were so motivated to get an education for their child, to get the educational services that we offer, and also for the social services that we offer families, that even though we were concerned that it might affect the enrollment, that change did not. As a matter of fact, in some cases, fathers came and brought their children to the program, and that increased our father involvement, which is a Head Start goal, is to really increase. So we were very happy about that. And I also want to mention that Head Start is really a three-generational family. We've got the child, we've got the parent, and the grandparent. The grandparent is very welcome into the program.
Right. But you must have also had some kind of arrangement with the city's agency, Human Resources Agency, because at the time they were making everybody work if you were getting any kind of public assistance. Mm-hmm. So I would assume some of your people were getting public assistance, but they were getting some kind of a waiver, I hope, or something
well, I think,
in order to work there.
As I said, that the parents do work non-traditional hours,
so
and that because the program isn't childcare at this point, we will be having childcare in our Head Start program.
You're not an education program right now.
Well, we are an education program.
I don't mean that, but I meant
it's not. It's childcare.
You're not under childcare regulations and rules.
Exactly.
And they are very complicated.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, how many people can you accommodate? I mean, you must turn away some people, do you?
We do have a waiting list, but we don't just turn them away.
I don't mean that, but
but that's really important.
Right.
We are full enrollment both in at the West Harlem site.
Right.
We're funded for 88 children and families, and we have full enrollment also. Uptown, we have 111 infants and toddlers and 36 pregnant women, excuse me, and our 66 Head Start families. So we have full enrollment. And when parents come to us, and we have waiting lists, we also have priorities, because there are certain risk factors in terms of families that we will take. And those risk factors are set by the Parent Policy Council and the advisory board of our program. So I do want to say something about what's special about Head Start, and that's the governance piece. Because parents are active decision makers in our program. They really have power, and they are trained. It's representative government. They get elected by parents from the different classes that we have, and they come together once a month meeting, and they have an agenda, and they have certain aspects of our program is under their purview. The policies and procedures of our program are reviewed by parents. They have a say. And the idea behind this is that parents get educated to speak up, to have a voice, find a voice, And then when children go on to public school, because really the mission of Head Start is school readiness. But how do you do school readiness? School readiness involves parents. It involves babies. It involves babies in the womb.
Right.
That's school readiness.
Right.
So I'm very...
And do you do any, have you done any studies to see if the parents continue to be involved in the parents' associations and in the school when they go?
Well, we have not done specific studies, and I really think a longitudinal study following we have anecdotal stories, wonderful success stories, but really a rigorous research would be so wonderful to see, so we could track.
Right.
But we have heard, you know, we know that parents become advocates for their children when they go to school. We also teach them what's a good school, what's a good early childhood program, so that when they do go and they look at the schools, Head Start has a transition piece. We help parents when they're going to be leaving our program. They're informed about all the schools in the area.
They are very lucky because it is very complicated and difficult.
Yes, and there are alternative schools, there are special schools. We have one child going to a special school downtown. They actually came and spoke to us and said, we want to take one of your children, if they're really talented, on full scholarship. So we're...
Great.
Yeah.
You're funded then from the federal government?
Yes, we are.
And are you applying to be a child care facility also?
We will be. We're waiting for licensing.
But that comes from the city and state.
That's going to be Head Start. But our early Head Start, yes, and our early Head Start, we will have 22 children receiving child care. That's a small number, but we are funded to do that.
There are percentages of the number of children who would be eligible for Head Start that we cover. What is it? It's like 20, is it as high as 25%?
I think maybe it's about 40.
I don't think it's that high.
Maybe that melt above the
I don't know, but I don't think it's that high. But it's so frustrating from just sitting back and looking at this, any rational person would see the value of this.
Yes.
And then also you're bombarded with the stories of failures in public education and all the measures they're taking, as I said when I introduced you. And yet it never gets fully funded. And then it gets all involved in other political questions. I remember,
absolutely.
The Carnegie Foundation is a foundation that's done enormous work.
Yes.
And then the first Head Start program, I guess, started in Perry, Michigan. Is that the Perry School, whatever it was, Ypsilanti, Michigan, right?
Well, that was in '62,
right.
And that's a research project. But that model is the Head Start model,
right? And they have followed that, and they've even followed it for 40 years and more. And it was very interesting to read the results of that 40 years later. There was a time when it was hard to see the difference, the value that the Head Start experience had for these young children when they were in first, second, and third grade, I think. It's sort of evened out.
They said the academic, that they were ahead academically, and then that evened out.
Right.
But they didn't, the social value.
Right. So the new study, which was 40 or some odd years later, showed that they were stable families, higher percentage, right?
Yes.
A higher percentage of high school graduates, college graduates, and even a PhD.
Less girls getting pregnant as teenagers.
Less teenage pregnancy.
Less crime.
Less incarceration.
And less children being in special education classes.
It's definitely stabilized family structures.
Absolutely.
And there you are with the proof. And now we have all these people in prison, we have all these drug problems, we have all these learning problems, and we're still not funding Head Start all the way.
Yes, and it's up for reauthorization.
We don't even fund child care all the way.
Yeah, it's up for reauthorization. I think it's mid-February, and we have a new Congress.
Right.
So I'd like to see.
But more than just reauthor it.
Well, no, but yes, expand it. I would like to. It's going to get reauthorized, but I'd like to see more infant and toddler programs, because I think that's essential, and as we know how important it is when the children are very young. And I want to just point out,
when you say infants, how young is the infant?
Well, we have pregnant women.
Yeah.
And after they have their babies, they come into our baby group. And that is the most wonderful group that you could ever walk into, because it's just to see parents, some of them who are isolated. And women, after they give birth, sometimes is at risk for postpartum depression.
Right.
But if they come into our program and they bring their babies, and they can share their experiences, and the babies are in a learning environment where they can grow and move, and And I remember walking into the classroom and I saw this baby lying on his back. And then he turned over. He was 4 months old, and it was the first time he turned over. Well, the joy in that room and the sharing of that milestone of development. Well, if that parent had been home alone with that child, it's not the same. And then we go from the baby room to the toddler room with the parent-child groups, and then the space, then the children have room to move around, to explore, lots of sensory experiences, lots of language. Language from in utero. The most important thing is language development for later learning. That correlates. And children with low-income families, children who are poor, and families where they're living under tremendous stress, compared to middle-income families and children, those children have much more language. And the more language you have, the more experience you have in questions and answer, dialogue. When children go to school and they're learning to read and write, that is key. It's absolutely key. So our program stresses literacy.
It's just so fascinating to see the theme of support and sharing with friends, the need for that. You know, I mean, New York City can be a very isolating place, I think, because you can get lost in the crowd. And in all different areas, you always see how important it is to have a circle of support and friends.
Well,
and
it's wonderful.
One of the things that you're doing.
Our parents are coming from Latin American countries. They're bilingual. Sometimes they'll come into a classroom and they'll find there's somebody from their hometown. And it means so much to them because we are a multicultural program. We're culturally sensitive. We want parents to share where they come from, who they are, share their music. And then what they do is also they have play dates. They become friends and they support each other, as you say, outside. And if a parent has a crib and another parent needs a crib, they'll start exchanging. So this is, in a sense, you know, we don't plan this. We didn't plan it, but it's happening.
Yeah, it's like when I was a young mother, I used to had the crowd on the playground.
Yes.
We couldn't wait to get to the playground to share our stories and our things and everything else. Because it's a public health project and not out of the welfare department or anything like that, you're not funded for the parent classes on your grant. You're
absolutely. Absolutely, we're not.
Right.
And therefore, we have to raise special funds, which we have. We've had in the past, we were very fortunate to get a grant from a foundation that started our parent classes. And we have...
what foundation is that?
Malago Foundation funded us.
That's very good.
Yes, we got,
terrific. And
we hired a wonderful young woman who led what was called our Fortalecerse programs. It's empowering parents. We developed a CDA class, Child Development Associate Training class for parents, and that's the first rung on the early childhood ladder. It's a wonderful class also because it teaches child development, and parents who take the class say, oh my God, I enjoy my children so much more. I can interact with them better. And I can be a better teacher for my child because I've learned the stages of development, how children learn. But this class also motivates some parents to go on to get a BA, to go on to college, because they get a chance to get confidence. It's taught on a very high level. So we've offered this to our parents and to our staff. We have computer training, job skill training for our parents. And we also we listen to parents, and parents are saying we need basic literacy because some of our parents need basic literacy. So, and this is coming from our policy council.
That's great.
And
you know, we haven't talked much about the home visits. Every family is visited at home. How often?
Yes. We have, depending upon how often they come for socialization groups. In Head Start, they're coming. I'm very happy about this. They're coming twice a week for 3.5-hour socialization groups, and parents are they have a group. But we have home visitors that visit the Head Start children. I believe it's it's twice a month. And when they come in, we have a curriculum, and that the teachers and the home visitors plan the curriculum together, so all the learning is reinforced. So what happens in the classroom, we have classroom lesson plans and we have home visit lesson plans. So the home visitor goes into the home with a lesson plan that reinforces the learning in the classroom. So that's the educational piece. The other piece is the social service piece. Parents have many, many needs. And it could be housing. They may need food stamps. They may need WIC, and we help them. We connect them to the resources in the community that they need. And we also have home visits and early Head Start. When we and the idea is that the parent is going to be the teacher. So you may come in with a book and activities for a child. Gradually and little by little, depending upon where the parent is and their understanding, parents start to take over the visit. They start to be teaching their child. And then we say, well, what would you like us to do next time that we come? Another thing we do, which I think is wonderful, thinking about parents, some of our parents, being immigrant parents, really don't know how to travel in the city. So we take them on subways and we go to cultural institutions like the Museum of Natural History. It's very, very important to do this.
This is a remarkable program, so these people are really lucky. I've noticed, I mean, I'm so envious of my grandchildren because I see the difference in the way the nurturing and the attitudes of parents to children, from the way I was with my children to the grandchildren. You know, I'm sure the thing I love is being in the playground after school and hearing people to the young kids say, "Good job, good job."
Oh yes, yes.
So do you hear that all over your
praise?
Yes, that's so important.
Praise
right?
is
Instead
so
of
important.
Don't do this and don't do that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's such an incredible change.
It makes a tremendous difference to praise a child because they're growing and developing so quickly. As we're looking at them, they're doing something. They're pulling themselves up and they're starting to build towers. And they look to us for encouragement. And I think it's wonderful because it says, you're wonderful. We want them to know they are so proud of themselves. And this makes them, this is readiness to learn. The social emotional piece is so important.
It's just hit me now. I've done a lot of work with women in prison. And one of the things they always say is they've learned to have pride in themselves.
Yes.
Now, they had to get to prison to learn that.
Yes.
And your kids are going to grow up with it. It's just going to be a natural strain. It's really very interesting.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I mean, it
really is an enormous difference in how these kids are starting life. And it's...
I would like to tell you about a program that I feel very good about that our center has, because we do have some very special enriched programs. We have a program called, it's called Carrying Out Columbia, Children at Risk Intervention for the Next Generation. It comes out of the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Department of Columbia. Now, I've worked in that program for many years. We have an arts program. We have a child and adolescent psychiatry resident working in the public schools with 5th and 6th graders in an arts program. What I'm happy about and feel very, very good about is that I was able to bring this caring program to Columbia University Head Start, and we have a parent-child caring arts and music program. What made me think of it is that we're designing it and developing it. And one piece of it is taking the parent is working with the child on an art project, and they are allowing the child to be the leader, and praise is a piece of it.
It's wonderful. And also because there is so little beauty when you're really poor and you're living in a place that is not where you should be living. So let's go back for a minute, because we haven't talked about the nutrition that you teach.
Yes.
And is that the basic reason, early pediatric care and nutrition, is that the main reason that it comes out of public health?
It's the population, it's the Halpern Department of Population and Family Health, and that is a very key reason, because the health of people in the community, nationally in the world, is very important in terms of public health.
But of course you're doing the mental health of communities also.
Exactly. Yeah. And so nutrition, we're talking, again, school readiness, if we want children to learn and we want families to be healthy, I mean, our goal is really to have healthy families. So we do have nutrition training. We have also health and safety training. This is all mandated. This is part of Head Start. Mm-hmm. It's part of the performance standards of Head Start.
Do you serve any meals in your 3 hours?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We're very lucky to have a wonderful nutritionist on staff. She also leads our perinatal support group, and she selects the menus for breakfast and for lunch. Very nutritional, colorful, and tasty foods, sometimes from the cultures of the people who attend the program.
And do the parents learn how to cook some of these things?
Yes, they do. And I also want to mention dental health and oral health, which is absolutely key. Children brush their teeth. Right. After meals, once they have a tooth, if they're 2 years of age or when that tooth comes in, and
and they love it.
And they love it.
And they do it together.
So these are good, healthy habits. And hygiene, they wash their hands. And also children help set the table because self-help skills are so important. So definitely.
So you have a book here which we don't have time to look at.
Okay.
But parents learn to set their own goals, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And they each keep a book?
Yes, that's a developmental milestone scrapbook.
And so it's filled with different things. It's bilingual, right?
Yes. This one is in Spanish. It's a story of the child and how the child grows in all areas of development.
So wonderful. So at the end, they've got it.
At the end, when they leave us, they have their milestone scrapbook, and we celebrate the milestones with our parents.
Well, I think we should all be celebrating your program. It sounds absolutely wonderful, and people are very lucky to be going there. Thank you very much, Dr. Farber.
Thank you.
If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.